Well, the City of Johannesburg says that it is owed an outstanding debt of 38 billion rand in unpaid municipal rates, taxes and levies owed by residents, businesses and government. Joburg City Executive Mayor Mpho Phalatse says revenue collection is necessary in building a city that is well run, that is safe and business friendly. However, the city says residents who are struggling to pay their municipal bills should apply for the Debt Rehabilitation Programme online or at the walk-in centres. The Johannesburg Mayor joins us virtually to discuss this. Mayor, great to have you on Morning Live. Thank you very, very much for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me as well.
So this debt, I mean, the numbers we're reading here, 38 billion rand. I mean, it's quite an incredible amount of money. Do you expect to get this back?
Yes, we do, Leanne. That's why we've started enhancing revenue collection. We will not get the money back if we don't go after it. And the only way to go after it is to do exactly what we're doing now, issuing pretermination notices after a certain period of time and cutting people off if they don't honor that.
I suppose the question has to ask, how did we get here? I mean, there is such a big amount of money and a massive bill. How did it manage to get to this amount of money?
Well, I mean, this points to lack of leadership, particularly in the last 2 years. You know, I believe that a lot was really left to go on for too long. You'll recall that there's always been billing issues in the city of Johannesburg. There's always been issues with non-payment of municipal bills. But between 2016 and 2019, we did manage to really address the outstanding debt. We managed to address the outstanding billing queries. We took the numbers down from 100,000 to 9,000 in just 3 years. So it shows that with the right leadership, with political will, you can actually bring in the monies and you can address internal issues that lead to incorrect bills as well.
I mean, if we look at we look at some of the clients that are not paying. I mean, obviously the one that made the big headlines was Santan City. I mean, owing a bill of 158 million rand. What happened there? Did that actually get? Did you cut their electricity and water and light? Did you go ahead and do that to Santan City?
So we have issued a pretermination notice, which has not yet expired. It expires in a few days. And I believe that talks are ongoing between our revenue department and Santan City to try and find each other and get them to a point where they can at least make an arrangement and start making payments. Should that not happen by the time the pretermination notice expires, unfortunately, we will go and cut them off. We're hoping it won't come to that, of course, but we're giving them every opportunity to do the right thing. The ball is in their court.
Yeah, it certainly is. But I mean, one has to ask, when a big financial monster like that, and it really is, I mean, think of the amount of shops that are in that shopping centre that are forced to pay rent every single month, and the rent is exorbitant, and they don't can pay their water and lights. It's almost unfair that they're given a chance, isn't it? I mean, why are they not paying? They should have just been cut, to be honest with you. I mean, this is such a big operation that tenants are paying and they're not paying for the tenant.
You're absolutely right. And that's the case. I mean, we've been cutting off buildings, office buildings, where a lot of the tenants are up to date with their rental. But for some reason, either the management company or the company owning the building is not honoring their commitment to the municipality. Unfortunately, when we cut them off, it is the tenants who suffer. And yes, we don't have a choice. We hate to do that to the tenants, but sometimes it's the only way to resolve this and to bring in the money. I mean, many of the instances when we do cut them off, money suddenly comes out and we receive what is due to us as the city.
Yeah, and that's when you ask the question, why didn't they pay in the first place if suddenly they can find the money? For instance, another big hotel chain, the Radisson Blu, 14 million rand non-payment. Water was disconnected there. Have they finally paid their bill?
You know, I haven't been following up that quickly. There's a lot happening, very dynamic, but I know that a lot of money is coming through as we are cutting off. Remember, it's too costly for them to suddenly now not be able to operate. And that's why we're going to these lengths, because it's only then that we touch them, we hit them where it hurts the most so that they can come forward and make payment. So I'm not certain if Radisson Blu in particular has already made payment. But what I can say is that ever since we started Operation VOYA Teto, a return to the rule of law, ever since we've gone after what is owed to us, a lot of the outstanding monies are starting to come in.
You mentioned Operation VOYA, Teto. Obviously, I'll get a little bit more from you as to what this actually entails, and the rollout of the specific operation focused on an area referred to as Region E. So this is what we're talking about right now. This is Santan and surrounds. But there are other well-known stories, such as that of Soweto households. Are those also lined up for the collections?
So we actually started in Region F, which is the inner city region. We started about 3 weeks ago. That's when we made the initial announcement that we're relaunching Operation VOYA Teto, which again was an operation that we had initially launched in the 2016 administration, but for some reason in the last 2 years, it was not sustained. We relaunched it because we realized that there is lawlessness in the city in various forms. VOYA Teto is a transversal program within the city involving multiple departments and entities. It means a return to the rule of law. It is a law enforcement drive, whether it's reclaiming hijacked buildings, whether it's tackling illegal dumping, or dealing with unpaid bills as we are now. It's all under the VOYA Teto banner, and different departments would then participate as and when we deal with their direct issues. Now, we started in Region F, we're now in Region E. Yes, Region E is the Santan area. We will move to other parts of the city as well. We will get to Region D, which is the Soweto region. Yes, we will get there. But what we did is we targeted the top 100 customers first, because we do need to bring in as much money as possible. So the top owing 100 customers were what we started with. And coincidentally, those happened to be in Region F, which is a hub of business. So a lot of big businesses, a lot of big manufacturing, office buildings will be in Region F, and of course Region E, which is our financial hub.
Yeah, let's look at the hospitals as well, because what I'm reading is that some of the hospitals in Johannesburg as well, they have a bill of up to 200 million rand. Let's talk about hospitals. Have they paid? Why are they not paying?
You know, it's quite sad, and it makes us angry as the municipality, where Charlotte Maxeke has now gone out and said that we're not relying, they don't owe that kind of money, when all they've ever said to us is they don't have money to pay. So they've never raised a billing dispute. They've always just said, we know we owe, we accept the debt, but we can't pay, we don't have the means to pay. Now, you'll recall that the Department of Health has always had financial challenges. It's a long historic issue that we can get into at another time. What we've done is we've engaged the Premier, because Provincial Treasury has the means to bail out the Department of Health. The difficulty on our part is, how do you go to a hospital like Charlotte Maxeke and cut off their water? This is one of the biggest hospitals in the country. It services the whole country, literally, and even countries around South Africa, because of the level of care that it's able to render, very specialized care. It's very difficult for us to go and cut them off. We've been engaging with them, and we're quite disappointed that they're now coming out and saying that we're not telling the truth.
Yeah, look, hospitals I can understand, but the reality is that this money does need to be paid. If we have to zone in a little bit on government departments that are not paying, I mean, we saw what was happening in Tshwane. We saw the cut-off that was happening there, and the culprits that didn't pay. I mean, I'm not mentioning the corporates. I'm now focusing on government departments. But I mean, they managed to, I think, they almost collected 500 million in some of the instances. That's the city of Tshwane. But in Gauteng, government departments, what are we looking at here? I mean, hospitals you've spoken to that are owing about 200 million rand, but other government departments, are they paying?
Yes, so we are starting to get monies in. We're not getting all the money at the same time. So what we did is, after my engagement with the Premier, he undertook to put together a task team that would work with the city's revenue collection team. And through that, then we've started recouping 29 million here, 11 million there, but at least money is starting to come in. The Department of Health and the Department of Education were the highest owing. The total debt for the provincial government was over 800 million rands. and slowly we're starting to see that come in.
Yeah, that's a very, very big amount of money. Let's talk to your time being the Joburg mayor now. You know, this is a massive role, it really is, that you've been put into. And there's a lot happening in the city of Joburg, and not necessarily in a good way. I mean, when one walks around the city, drives around the city, and lives in the city, you notice the decay that's been happening over years and years and years. There seems to be a decay, and nothing is ever done about it. What is your focus? I know you have a program called a Golden Start. So perhaps you can help us understand what is a part of this Golden Start program.
So ever since we took over government in November last year, I was 3 weeks without MMCs. So on the 13th of December, then MMCs were appointed. We've had various programs. We've had induction. We've had a strategic planning. We've just finalized our adjustment budget, which gives us an opportunity to adjust up to 10% of the budget that we inherited because of the time in which we took over the city. Now, we will be tabling this budget in council this coming week on the 24th, and this budget will then enable us to start really rolling out our plans and what we believe that is needed to turn the city around. However, what we've also picked up is there were a lot of critical posts that were unfilled. We've just concluded the process of recruiting a city manager, almost concluded. We will be tabling that report in council on the 24th as well. The city has been without a city manager for almost a year now. In the absence of stable leadership, you can imagine what can happen, and that explains what you're seeing on the ground. But there's also other senior managerial posts that have been open, about 5 that we've started also the recruitment process for. So we are filling those. What we've also done is in the entities are responsible for basic service delivery. So City Power, Joburg Water, Pick It Up are examples of those entities. We've also fast-tracked the replacement of the boards of those entities. This is the leadership of the entities that makes sure that the entities do what they're called to do, assisting the city in delivering on basic services. We had our board AGM last week. Also, again, another record that we broke and in having an AGM in just 2 months in office. So we're taking care of a lot of the governance issues, making sure the internal workings of the city are in order so that the city can serve its residents. But there's also been launches. We launched Teto. We launched R38. R38 was also a relaunch. This is another program that we started in 2016, where we mobilized civil society to take charge of their own environment. But what we've done now is we've got it in 2 phases. We've launched phase 1, which sees regional service delivery teams from Joburg Roads Agency, City Parks and Zoo, City Power, Joburg Water, etc., moving together from region to region, addressing service delivery backlogs. We started in Region E in the Alexandra Marlborough area, and we will be moving from region to region until we've addressed the backlog, and then we'll restore the teams back to their original regions. Yeah. So you'll notice that the inner city is looking very clean. We've really increased police visibility, particularly in the inner city region, so that we can really enforce our bylaws. You'll see that the inner city is starting to look cleaner. Areas like Yeovil are starting to look cleaner. We've got civil society there that are doing amazing work in partnership with government to help us do what needs to happen. So quite a lot of work that's happening. The private sector is also coming on board. Very exciting work is happening, developmental work in different parts of the city. So I'm seeing this vibrant movement of people taking back their city and saying our city has been in ruins for far too long and it's enough now. Yeah. It's time for us to turn it back.
Yeah, it certainly has been in ruins for far too long, and your job is bigger than I think anybody can imagine. However, this has seemed to have been, the City of Joburg mayor position seems to be somewhat of a poison chalice in a way. I mean, it is something that it really is. I mean, this is the city of gold as we have known it. It's a city with, financial clout, but that financial clout seems to be moving away, is that people are losing faith in the city of Johannesburg and don't necessarily want to be here anymore. I mean, when you look and you read people and you hear comments coming from people, they don't want to be here anymore. You know, Johannesburg is a place where the reputation is in tatters and it needs to be built up again. Do you think you're up for the job? I mean, already it's difficult with the team that you had to get and appoint this team and get to the point where you're at right now. Do you think you're up for this challenge? Because it's an important city that is losing prominence very fast.
Well, it has been, Leanne, but that's certainly changing. We've only been in office, as I said, for 2.5 months. Yes, we're definitely up for the job. I've got a great team of MMCs. We've just recruited great board members to make sure our entities are working for our residents and to restore the city. I really know that we will be able to turn this around. Look, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. And it's so important to communicate the truth to our residents, the challenges that we face. But it's also important to say to residents, we are committed to this. We're going to see it through. And that's why we took time to put together a multi-party coalition government that will be stable and keep us in government for the next 5 years. We've got 9 political parties now. We're more stable than we could have ever been. And that's because we realize we're going to need enough time if we're going to turn the city around. We're going to turn it around, Lee, and I have no doubt in my mind about that. What has happened, but we can change the city looks like going forward.
We're having a problem with your connection. I'm hoping it'll stabilize. In fact, it looks like it's complete. Now, there we go. It looks like we've got you back now. It froze for a little bit there. It is, one wants to regain the faith, but we have spoken to so many mayors in a short amount of time, but the reality is that you've mentioned it, the safety of the city is really, really worrying. That crime levels in Johannesburg are massive. Potholes in Johannesburg are all over the place in the roads. Buildings are looking completely derelict, and obviously now with a lot of corporates deciding to go online and not necessarily occupy these spaces, that also brings another challenge. There are far too many people living in the city of Johannesburg. It's overpopulated, and this is another big challenge, and there is no employment. I mean, these are just a few things that I'm mentioning here, including the spiraling cost of living. I'm not saying it's just in the city of Johannesburg, it's everywhere. But in Joburg, it just seems, the price of everything keeps on going through the ceiling. And then we've still got the double-edged sword of having to deal with load shedding and electricity cuts and water cuts and the likes. So, I mean, there are so many challenges, and we know that you do have. But let's have a look at the overpopulation issue. That's a big one. How do we get to the bottom of that?
Well, we need to look at what's causing it in the first place. Joburg is the city of gold. Everybody comes here in search of golden opportunities. Unfortunately, yes, we also have a challenge of illegal immigration in the country. Johannesburg as a city does not control our borders. And because we attract people because of the proverbial gold, we become the beneficiaries, of this illegal immigration. What do we do about it? Well, we do the best we can under the circumstances, which is what we're doing. Joburg has been like that for a long time, but Joburg has worked. There were instances where Joburg worked as a city, where it was a functional city. So I'm not one to make excuses because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. We need to be able to do the basics first and foremost, get the basics right, and that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, we need to grow the economy so that we can see people back in jobs, but how do we grow the economy, and what is the role of government in doing that? The role of government is to get the city to work. It's to get the basics right, make sure there's water, electricity, roads are surfaced, streets are clean, people feel safe. That is what we need to do to get the economy going again. And that is our focus, and that's what we've been doing. You'll notice that also you spoke about hijacked buildings. We've just handed 47 buildings through the Group Forensic and Investigation Services Unit back to their owners. We are starting to clean up. We are starting to reclaim. Leanne, I'm very confident that Joburg is changing and that soon people will begin to sense that change.
Just finally, as I start wrapping up, Mayor, this is also one of the things is the local and economic development division within the city. And I think the question is, in terms of specifics, perhaps you can mention an example or two of economic and development opportunities to benefit communities that are in need of some development.
Well, of course, you've got different types of business, right? You've got SMMEs, for example. You'll recall that we had rolled out what we call opportunity centers, where people with business ideas or people at different developmental stages of their small businesses can go and get all kinds of support. We will be continuing that program, and we will in fact be scaling it up to make sure that there's access within all communities to this offering. For big business, really, the big win is to make Johannesburg business friendly. Look at our internal processes. We've started doing that within development planning. We've started really challenging the system and saying, you know, you don't have an applicant doesn't have to wait 30 days to get their building plans approved. We've managed to work on bringing that down to 10 days, and we plan on bringing it down further to 5 days. It's all about making it easy to do business in Johannesburg and attracting further investment. And there are plans to do that. We're also going online with a lot of our processes, particularly within the development planning space. Joburg is a property-rich city, and we've got a big property development community that really wants to work with us to rebuild Johannesburg, and we need to create an enabling environment for that to happen, and we've already started working on that. So there's quite a lot of developments targeting different types of businesses that's going to really help get our economy back on track.
All right, we leave it there. Thanks very much for talking to us, the Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Dr. Mpho Phalatse. I think one of the first times we've had a real in-depth chat with you on some of your plans for the city going forward. Thank you very much for being with us. So starting off by talking about the city's debt recollection strategy and, of course, the plans in place to try and rebuild Johannesburg. And we'll see how that one goes. We'll check